There are moments in life when everything you believed about success suddenly feels uncertain, when you realize that years of hard work have not brought you any closer to the life you imagined. If you have ever felt that way, then what I'm about to share will strike a nerve, because this story begins with a voice that stayed quiet for more than 60 years, a voice that watched people rise to extraordinary wealth while others struggled endlessly. And now, that silence is finally breaking. Imagine a 99-year-old man looking back at a lifetime spent in boardrooms, rooms filled with some of the richest individuals on earth. Some were names you would instantly recognize. Others operated quietly, but commanded fortunes that could transform entire industries. From those seats at the table, he witnessed both breathtaking success and devastating collapse. He watched fortunes multiply beyond imagination, and he watched them vanish because of a single, misguided decision. After decades of observing those patterns, he identified 5 investments that separated the wealthy from everyone else. Not investments found on Wall Street, not stocks, not bonds, not real estate, and certainly not any modern-day speculation disguised as opportunity. These were private, almost invisible investments. Investments that quietly multiplied his wealth far more than the public ever saw. These 5 decisions carried him from being a small-time lawyer in Omaha to building a net worth of $2.5 billion. And even more remarkable, they were things Wall Street could never charge a fee for. They were strategies grounded in discipline, insight, and long-term thinking. And today, as we step into 2025 and approach 2026, those same investments have become more urgent than at any point in modern history. The world you once recognized, its economic rules, its predictable rhythms no longer exists. The old financial playbook is gone. If you're watching this now, you need a new one. By the time this story unfolds, you will understand exactly why these investments had nothing to do with the stock market, yet produced more wealth than decades inside Berkshire Hathaway ever could. You will understand why most people work until their 70s and still end up worried about money. And most importantly, you will understand what you must do differently. But be warned, what you're about to hear defies the familiar lessons passed down by advisors, professors, and parents. This is not conventional wisdom. It is the truth behind a lifetime of observation, and it begins now. And before the first investment is revealed, you must understand the man behind it, and why everyone misunderstood his path to wealth. Before those 5 extraordinary investments can make sense, you need to understand something essential about the man who discovered them. People often assume that anyone who reaches great wealth must have been born with advantages, money, connections, or a stroke of early luck. But in his case, none of that was true. He didn't inherit wealth. He didn't grow up surrounded by privilege. And he certainly didn't stumble into a breakthrough tech company in his garage. He began like countless others, a young lawyer in Omaha, Nebraska, earning a modest income, raising a family, and juggling bills like any ordinary person. In his 30s, a moment arrived that would permanently shift the course of his life. It happened during a routine meeting with a client, a man who was moderately successful and eager to become richer. The client leaned forward and repeated the same questions over and over. What stock should I buy? What's hot right now? How do I get rich fast? For a long time he had answered such questions politely, assuming that they were part of the job. But that day, something clicked. It was as if a curtain suddenly lifted. The client wasn't asking the wrong stock question. He was asking the wrong wealth question entirely. That realization struck with unusual clarity. The investments that create generational wealth, the kind that transforms lives and lasts for decades, were never the ones taught in business schools. They weren't the ones financial media promoted daily. They weren't the products brokers pushed because they came wrapped in fees. Those were distractions designed to keep people dependent on the system. Meanwhile, the people who quietly built lasting wealth were investing in things completely invisible to the public. They invested in knowledge that compounded, in habits that sharpened decision-making, in personal systems that grew stronger year after year. They focused on choices that built stability, freedom, and power, not short-term excitement. And here's the uncomfortable truth. These investments required patience, discipline, and a builder's mindset. They demanded that you think differently from the crowd. But if you began applying them today, now, not tomorrow, your entire life could look different by 2026. And the change wouldn't be measured only in dollars. It would appear in the form of freedom, options, and control over your own future. He understood something most people still overlook. One disciplined choice can reshape the next 50 years of your life. Before he reveals the first of these 5 life-changing investments, he shares the story of how building knowledge, not money, became the foundation of everything that followed. The first investment that multiplied his wealth didn't resemble anything people typically chase. It wasn't a business, a stock, or a real estate deal. It was something far more powerful, something he began building long before anyone imagined its value. He called it his knowledge infrastructure, and it became the engine behind every major decision he made. This began in his 20s. At the time, he knew he wasn't the smartest person in the room. His years at Harvard Law School had made that clear. He was surrounded by brilliant minds, the type of people who could unravel complex problems in a single conversation. Instead of being discouraged, he made a quiet promise to himself. He would become the most knowledgeable person in any room he entered. Not the most naturally gifted, simply the most informed. There is a difference between being smart and being knowledgeable. Intelligence is largely inherited. Knowledge is built over time, choice by choice, hour by hour. And so he chose to invest relentlessly in learning. He began buying books on every subject he could find: business, psychology, history, biology, engineering, mathematics, philosophy, anthropology. If a book helped him understand how the world worked, he read it. Then came the commitment that would define the rest of his life. He decided to read 500 pages every single day. Not as a short-term challenge, but as a lifelong practice. For 70 years, he kept that commitment. When you add it up, it becomes an almost unbelievable mountain of knowledge, millions of pages of ideas, patterns, and insights. People questioned him constantly. Why read biology? You're an investor. Why study psychology when you could focus on finance? But he had already discovered a secret that most people overlook. The greatest opportunities appear at the intersection of different fields. When you understand how multiple systems work, you begin to notice connections that others never see. His investment in learning paid off dramatically in 1962 when he came across a small retail company called See's Candies. Financial experts said it was overpriced and underwhelming. Every metric suggested it was a bad deal. But he saw something the numbers couldn't capture. Years of studying human behavior, from Pavlov to modern psychology, had taught him how taste, memory, and loyalty shape buying habits. He realized See's wasn't just selling chocolate. It was selling a powerful emotional association that lasted a lifetime. He convinced Warren Buffett to buy the company for $25 million. That single decision generated over $2 billion in profit for Berkshire Hathaway. And now that you understand how knowledge fueled one of the most profitable decisions in history, the next step is learning exactly how you can begin building a similar foundation, starting now. After showing how one insight from a lifetime of reading led to billions in profit, he wanted people to understand something critical. Anyone can build this kind of knowledge infrastructure. It doesn't require genius. It doesn't require elite schooling. It only requires intention, discipline, and a willingness to learn across many fields instead of staying trapped in one. He broke this process into a simple structure designed to transform a person's thinking within a single year. Not by studying random subjects, but by following a deliberate sequence that strengthens the mind the same way a carefully planned fitness routine strengthens the body. Months 1 through 3 build your foundation. Begin with 4 essential books. First, read Poor Charlie's Almanac, not out of vanity, but because it introduces the mental models needed to understand everything else. Next, study Influence by Robert Cialdini to understand how persuasion shapes decision-making. Then read The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins which explains how evolutionary forces influence human behavior, including financial behavior. Finally, read Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, a deep dive into cognitive biases and how the human mind often leads us astray. Together, these books create a foundation that most people never develop. They change how you interpret choices, behavior, risk, and opportunity. Months 4 through 8 expand beyond your field. Here, the focus shifts to cross-disciplinary learning, the exact approach that allowed him to see the hidden value in C's candies. Read Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari to understand long-term human patterns that repeat across centuries. Then read The Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen to learn why businesses fail and how disruption works. Add Atomic Habits by James Clear to understand how small behavioral changes drive major long-term outcomes. But there is one more critical step. Immerse yourself in one scientific field. It does not matter which one: biology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, so long as you study it deeply. Understanding a scientific discipline trains the mind to think in systems, causes, and consequences. That kind of thinking becomes priceless when opportunities arise. Months 9 through 12 apply everything to money. Read every Warren Buffett annual letter from 1977 to the present. Don't skim. Study them. Take notes. Understand how he reasons, not just what he recommends. Then choose one industry and become an expert. Not casually, seriously. Read its history, reports, conferences, and trends. Spend 200 hours becoming someone who sees what others overlook. One insight, applied at the right moment, can change the next decade of your life. And while knowledge can unlock unseen opportunities, the next investment focuses on something even more powerful. Something that can multiply or destroy a lifetime of potential with a single choice. The next investment he revealed was something people rarely think about, yet it quietly determines the trajectory of every career, every opportunity, and every major turning point in a person's life. He called it the reputation compound, and he believed it was one of the most powerful forces in wealth building. Unlike money, reputation compounds faster and lasts longer. One decision strengthens it. One careless moment can weaken it for years. He understood this lesson the hard way. In 1973, he had a chance to invest in a promising technology company. On paper, everything looked perfect. The product was innovative, the market growing, and every metric pointed toward success. When he met the CEO, the man seemed sharp, articulate, and confident. But there was something subtle in how he spoke, an ease with bending the truth, a willingness to shade details to make himself look better. The discomfort was small, almost easy to ignore. Against his better judgment, he ignored it. He invested $100,000, a significant amount at the time. Within 2 years, the company collapsed. The CEO had been manipulating numbers all along. The money vanished, but the real cost wasn't the financial loss. It was the realization that reputation, your own, and the reputation of those you associate with, can either open doors or quietly ruin everything. He learned then that every interaction, from the smallest promise to the biggest commitment, adds to or subtracts from your reputation. And the people around you notice. When you keep your word 10 times, 10 people trust you. When those 10 tell others, 30 more trust you without even meeting you. That is compound interest, but not in dollars, in credibility. He built his entire career on 3 principles that served as the foundation of his reputation compound. The first was brutal honesty, even when it hurt. In 1969, he turned down a deal worth $500,000 because it was ethically questionable, even though it was technically legal. He walked away from a life-changing sum because keeping his integrity mattered more. That decision, which seemed foolish at the time, led directly to a meeting with Warren Buffett, one that would evolve into a partnership spanning 60 years. The second principle was to underpromise and overdeliver, and the third was to give credit generously, creating loyalty that money could never buy. These rules protected his reputation and multiplied his opportunities for decades. But understanding reputation is only the beginning. The real transformation comes from learning how to deliberately build, strengthen, and compound it throughout your own life. After sharing how his own reputation shaped every major opportunity he received, he turned to the practical side, how anyone can deliberately build a reputation that compounds over time. He emphasized that this process is not complicated, but it requires consistency so strong that other people begin trusting you almost automatically. He broke the strategy into two phases. The first covered the foundation, the second the multiplier effect. Months 1 through 6 lay the foundation. This phase is simple but demanding. First, keep every promise you make, no matter how small. If you say you'll send an email, send it. If you say you'll call at 3 p.m., call it exactly 3 p.m., not a few minutes later. If something prevents you from keeping your commitment, communicate at least 24 hours in advance with a clear explanation and a new timeline. Never disappear. Never let people wonder where you stand. He noticed something powerful over the decades. People don't expect instant solutions, but they do expect acknowledgement. So, he made it a rule never to leave messages unanswered. If he couldn't address something immediately, he would reply with a short confirmation like, "I received your message. I'll follow up by Friday." That simple gesture built trust faster than impressive promises ever could. Months 7 through 12 activate the multiplier effect. Once you establish reliability, the next step is to demonstrate generosity without expecting anything in return. Help 3 people in meaningful ways. Introduce them to someone valuable, teach them a skill, or offer guidance that costs you time and effort. Authentic generosity, he said, eventually comes back in ways you cannot predict. The next rule is to credit others publicly for your achievements. If you get promoted, thank your team. If you close a deal, acknowledge the person who opened the door. If you learn something new, name the person who taught it to you. This habit makes people want to work with you repeatedly. It creates relationships rooted in respect rather than competition. Finally, he urged people to say the words, "I don't know," when necessary. Pretending to know everything subtracts from your reputation. Admitting gaps strengthens it. Paradoxically, humility increases credibility. He explained that the compounding effect appears in the second or third year. Someone you helped, someone who watched you keep your word, someone who trusts you. One of these people eventually opens a door you never could have opened alone. That moment becomes a turning point. But reputation is only one pillar of lasting wealth. The next investment he shared reveals why relationships and the people you choose to build around you can determine the course of your entire financial future. The third investment he revealed was not about money at all. It was about people. He called it your relationship portfolio, and he believed it was one of the most misunderstood drivers of long-term wealth. Many people think networking is about collecting business cards, attending shallow events, or adding strangers on professional platforms. But he insisted that this version of networking was nothing more than noise. Real wealth, he said, grows from deep, long-term relationships that appreciate in value year after year. To explain this, he shared the story of his partnership with Warren Buffett, a relationship that became one of the most valuable collaborations in modern financial history. Their connection began humbly in 1959 at a dinner in Omaha. Neither man was wealthy, neither carried fame or influence. They were simply two individuals who saw the world differently and recognized something rare in each other. What made the relationship powerful wasn't money, but depth. They talked almost every day for 60 years. They debated intensely, challenged each other's assumptions, and sharpened each other's thinking. They saved each other from disastrous mistakes. Over time, the strength of the relationship helped create a company worth hundreds of billions of dollars. But the lesson he wanted people to see was deeper. The relationship only worked because both men brought something valuable to the table. A relationship portfolio compounds only when you make yourself someone worth knowing. Shallow, transactional networking cannot replace genuine development of character, skill, and insight. He described his relationship framework as 5 concentric circles, each representing a different level of importance and investment. The first circle, the inner council, includes only 3 to 5 people who challenge you, ground you, and tell you the truth even when it hurts. These are the people you trust with your money, your time, and your reputation. His inner council included Warren, his wife Nancy, and 2 close friends. From that small group grew extraordinary value. The following circles expand outward: a brain trust of experts, a strategic network of leaders and collaborators, weak ties that maintain light but meaningful connections, and finally, an audience, people who know you from your work, even if you haven't met them yet. Each circle requires intention. Each represents an investment of time, honesty, and generosity. And when these relationships compound, they can transform your career in ways no financial investment ever could. But knowing the importance of relationships is one thing. Learning how to build and manage them with precision like a true portfolio is where the real transformation begins. Once he explained how deep relationships shaped his own success, he shifted to the practical strategy: how you can build a relationship portfolio that compounds over decades. He emphasized that this is not about charm, social energy, or constant networking. It is about intentional connection, thoughtful pruning, and choosing people whose values align with the life you want to build. Months 1 through 3. Audit your relationships. Begin by examining the people already in your life with complete honesty. Identify who belongs in your inner circle, the 3 to 5 people you would trust with major decisions. If you don't have those people yet, building that circle becomes your highest priority. At the same time, remove individuals who drain your energy, undermine your goals, or consistently take without giving. It does not matter how long you've known them, harmful relationships compound negatively just as positive ones compound in your favor. He advised making a list of people you admire but have never reached out to, people whose thinking challenges you or whose character you respect. Rank them by the potential value they bring, not in a selfish way, but in terms of how much they could elevate your growth. Months 4 through 8. Build your inner council intentionally. This is when you begin forming the relationships that will shape the next decade of your life. Identify 3 people who are wiser or more skilled in the areas you want to develop. If you need stronger financial literacy, find someone who understands money deeply. If you want better habits, find someone who demonstrates discipline effortlessly. Then offer value first. Share an article that solves a problem for them. Introduce them to someone helpful. Provide insight where you can. Give without asking for anything. After 3 genuine acts of value, propose a recurring conversation, a monthly coffee meeting, a quarterly call, or whatever feels natural. Frame it as mutual improvement, not mentorship, because nobody wants to feel like they are doing charity. These relationships must be built on equality and respect. Months 9 through 12. Now comes the stage where your relationship portfolio begins to accelerate. Introduce people from different circles to each other. Host small gatherings, a mastermind of 6 to 8 people chosen for their integrity and ambition. Keep notes on what you learn, who inspires you, and where opportunities emerge. Review these insights every month. The 10x moment from your relationship portfolio can arise in 3 ways. A person in your inner council becomes your partner in a venture. Someone opens a door you could never open alone, or someone warns you away from a catastrophic mistake. But relationships are only one piece. To truly multiply your income, you must build a unique combination of skills, something so rare and valuable that competition simply falls away. The 4th investment, he explained, is one that most people completely overlook, even though it is often the fastest path to dramatically increasing income. He called it skill stack arbitrage, a method of combining skills in a way that makes you uniquely valuable. Instead of trying to become the best in the world at a single skill, he believed in becoming highly competent at several complementary skills. When blended together, those skills form a combination so rare that it becomes irreplaceable. He explained why. Becoming the best at one thing is nearly impossible. It requires extraordinary sacrifice, thousands of hours, and a lifetime of focus. And even then, someone younger or more talented can surpass you. But becoming top 25% in 3 compatible skills is achievable for nearly anyone, and the marketplace rewards that combination far more than mastery of just one. He used himself as the simplest example. He was never the best lawyer in America. He wasn't the best investor either. Warren Buffett was better. He wasn't the top psychologist, and he wasn't the top communicator. But being very good at all 4 gave him a perspective no one else had. He could analyze deals through the lens of law, evaluate businesses with the mind of an investor, recognize human misjudgment using principles of psychology, and communicate complex ideas with clarity. That combination made him indispensable. He described each layer of his skill stack. His legal training helped him spot risks others ignored. His investment skills allowed him to evaluate companies with precision. His understanding of psychology helped him interpret human behavior, incentives, and irrationality, a vantage point that frequently saved him from bad deals. And his communication skills allowed him to explain decisions simply and earn trust from shareholders. Individually, none of these abilities made him exceptional, but together they placed him in a category of 1. Then he gave examples from others who used the same strategy to build extraordinary careers. Scott Adams combined drawing, business writing, and humor to create one of the most successful comic strips in history. Tim Ferriss blended writing, learning methodology, and self-promotion to build a global brand. Naval Ravikant fused investing, technology, and communication to become one of the most influential thinkers of his generation. The pattern was always the same. Rare combinations create rare opportunities. But knowing the value of a skill stack is only the beginning. The next step is learning exactly how to build your own unique combination, one that sets you apart in a world full of competition. After showing how rare combinations of skills created enormous value in his own life, he outlined the practical roadmap for building a skill stack that could transform anyone's earning potential. His method was structured, simple to follow, and built around one core truth. You don't succeed by competing where everyone else is strong. You succeed by creating a space where only you can operate. He began with step 1. Identify your base skill. This is the ability you are already better at than most people. It might be writing, speaking, analyzing numbers, teaching, organizing, designing, or solving technical problems. The key is honesty, not what you wish you were good at, but what you already perform at a top 25% level. This becomes the foundation of your stack, the starting point from which everything else grows. Step 2. Add a complementary skill that multiplies the value of the first. He emphasized that the second skill should increase the worth of the first skill by 5 to 10 times, not merely double it. For example, a decent writer who learns sales becomes a persuasive copywriter, a skill worth far more than writing or sales alone. A marketer who learns data analytics becomes a growth strategist. A people-oriented person who learns finance becomes a powerful fundraiser. A logical thinker who learns communication becomes a high-demand consultant. You don't need to be elite at this second skill. Top 25% is enough. What matters is how the two interact. Step 3. Add your differentiator skill. This is the third layer, the one that makes you stand out. It doesn't require mastery. Even reaching the top 30% can be enough when combined with the other 2. The purpose of this skill is simple, to make people say, "I've never met anyone who can do all 3 of these things." Examples include psychology for a salesperson, design for a marketer, coding for a financial analyst, or storytelling for a CEO. Then he laid out a timeline. Take a course, read 3 books, practice daily, and seek feedback from people who outperform you. Months 5 through 8. Add the multiplier skill. Practice deliberately for at least 1 hour per day. Months 9 through 12, add the differentiator. 30 minutes a day is enough because you're building competence, not mastery. The breakthrough rarely takes long. Within 18 to 24 months, someone will notice your unique combination and pay you a premium because no one else can offer the same value. But even the strongest skill stack needs protection. The next investment reveals how to build a system that not only survives chaos, but grows stronger because of it. The fifth and final investment he revealed was the most misunderstood and the most essential. He called it your anti-fragile system, a structure designed not just to survive chaos, but to grow stronger because of it. He explained that most people operate in one of two states. They are either fragile, meaning one setback can break them, or robust, meaning they can withstand stress but gain nothing from it. Very few people build themselves to be anti-fragile, to benefit from volatility instead of fearing it. He described fragility first. A fragile financial life depends on a single source of income or a single stable environment. One job loss, one market crash, one unexpected event, and everything collapses. That, he said, is how most people live. They balance their entire future on a thin thread, hoping nothing goes wrong. Robustness is slightly better. A person with a robust system can endure stress without falling apart. They can weather storms but gain nothing from them. Their situation remains unchanged, even when the world offers rare opportunities. But anti-fragility, that is an entirely different level. An anti-fragile system grows during stress. It strengthens during downturns. It expands when others shrink. He explained that his own life surviving 14 recessions and growing wealth through each one was the result of a system designed to gain from disruption. He built this system in layers. Layer 1, multiple income streams. He never relied on one job, one business, or one investment. He earned income through law, investing, real estate, board positions, and later speaking engagements. If one stream died, 4 others kept him steady. He believed relying on one source of income was the single greatest cause of financial fragility. Layer 2, asymmetric upside. He never took risks that could destroy him. He never used leverage recklessly. Every investment he made had limited downside and enormous potential upside. If the best happened, he grew exponentially. Layer 3, the barbell strategy. 80% of his assets were kept ultra-safe, treasury bonds, durable blue-chip stocks, and reliable real-world assets. The remaining 20% went into high-risk, high-reward opportunities, investments that might fail but could also multiply dramatically. This balance protected him while still allowing him to capture massive gains when others were panicking. Layer 4, skin in the game. He only invested in areas he deeply understood. When his own reputation and money were on the line, he made far better decisions. These layers formed a system that turned every crisis into an opportunity. But knowing what an anti-fragile system is isn't enough. The real power comes from learning exactly how to build one for yourself, starting now. After explaining how anti-fragility shaped his own life, he turned to the practical roadmap, how anyone starting from almost any position can build an anti-fragile system by 2026. He broke the process into 3 phases, each designed to strengthen your resilience and expand your upside even in the face of chaos. Phase 1, build your safety net. Months 1 through 6. This phase is about establishing a foundation sturdy enough to survive unexpected shocks. Begin by creating a 1,000 emergency fund, no matter how tight things feel. Sell something you no longer need. Cut expenses or take small extra jobs. That first $1,000 is not about wealth. It's about psychological stability. It gives you a margin of safety. Next, create a small secondary income stream. It doesn't need to be large. Even $500 per month matters. The point is not the amount. It's proving to yourself that you can generate income outside your primary job. That single shift removes you from the fragile category. Finally, Develop a skill you can monetize within 30 days if necessary, something that could generate at least $3,000 per month during a crisis. This skill becomes your emergency parachute. Phase 2, create redundancy, months 7 through 12. Once the foundation is set, build a structure that protects you even if one pillar collapses. Add a second income stream that operates differently from the first. If your main job is active work, create a passive income source. If your main work is service-based, create something product-based. The goal is diversification across types of income, not just amounts. Next, invest in 3 different asset classes. Not simply 3 stocks, but 3 categories, such as stocks, real estate, and bonds, or perhaps commodities, peer-to-peer lending, and a small business. Spread your exposure across different systems so that one downturn cannot take everything from you. Finally, cultivate relationships in different industries, people who could hire you, partner with you, or guide you if your world suddenly changed. Anti-fragility is not built alone. Phase 3, add asymmetric bets. Year 2, this is where wealth multiplies. Keep 85% of your life in safe, boring, stable assets, index funds, blue chip stocks, treasury bonds, or your primary residence. These protect you. Then take the remaining 15% and pursue high upside bets, starting a side business, acquiring a new credential, switching into a fast-growing field, or making a calculated investment with limited downside and large potential upside. Anti-fragility does not eliminate risk, it ensures you benefit from it, and the power of this system becomes clear during chaos, because that is when most fortunes vanish, and a few, quietly, are born. He explained that the true power of an anti-fragile system appears only in moments of upheaval, moments when most people panic because they never prepared for disruption. Crises expose fragility instantly. They reveal who built their life on a single point of failure and who built a structure that grows stronger under pressure. To show what anti-fragility looks like in practice, he pointed to the 2008 financial crisis, one of the most devastating economic events in modern history. People lost 40 to 60% of their wealth. Retirement accounts were slashed in half. Home values collapsed, and millions of jobs disappeared. For most families, it took nearly a decade to recover, but for him, the experience was entirely different. He explained that he lost almost nothing. His barbell strategy, the system of keeping 80% of his assets ultra-safe and 20% positioned for high upside opportunities, protected him against the collapse. While others were scrambling to save what they had left, his safe assets remained steady, barely moving. His cash reserves continued earning interest, and because he was not tied up in panic or crisis, he could act while others froze. With the market in chaos, he used his available capital to buy exceptional companies at enormous discounts, businesses with durability, strong balance sheets, and competitive advantages that had endured for decades. While the world panicked, he acquired them at 50 to 70% off. Those investments multiplied 5-fold by 2015. The same period that left others desperately trying to regain lost ground became one of the most profitable times of his life. But he stressed that this outcome was not luck. It was preparation. It was the predictable result of building a system that benefits from volatility. Anti-fragility does not guarantee comfort, but it guarantees opportunity. When fear rises, prices drop. When confusion spreads, mistakes happen. When markets collapse, the strongest businesses go on sale. Only those with resilient systems and available capacity can take advantage of those rare windows. He believed that the next major disruption, whether a recession, a market correction, an industry collapse, or a shift in global economics, would arrive before or during 2026. And while most people would suffer, a few would use the moment to multiply their wealth dramatically, just as he had done many times before. You cannot predict the exact form chaos will take, he said, but you can prepare to grow because of it. And now, with all 5 investments revealed, only one question remains. How do they come together to shape a lifetime of extraordinary wealth and personal freedom? As he concluded the lessons from a lifetime of watching fortunes rise and fall, He reminded us that the 5 investments were not theoretical ideas or motivational slogans. They were the real engines behind everything he achieved, from the early days as a modestly paid lawyer in Omaha to becoming one of the world's most respected thinkers and wealth builders. Each investment supported the others, forming a system that grew stronger over decades. The first investment, knowledge infrastructure, gave him the lens to see opportunities others ignored. It allowed him to think across disciplines, connect ideas from multiple fields, and make decisions based on deep understanding rather than surface-level numbers. Without this foundation, none of his later insights would have been possible. Knowledge was the quiet power behind his most profitable decisions. The second investment reputation compound opened doors that money never could. People trusted his judgment because he told the truth when it cost him, kept promises without fail, and gave credit without hesitation. That trust created relationships, partnerships, and opportunities that lasted a lifetime. The third investment relationship portfolio became the network of thinkers, challengers, mentors, and collaborators who shaped his life. His partnership with Warren Buffett alone transformed the landscape of business history. But the real lesson was that deep, authentic relationships built on shared values, honesty, and mutual respect compound just like money does, only faster. The fourth investment skill stack, arbitrage, helped him become irreplaceable. He didn't aim to be the best at one thing. Instead, he was very good at several meaningful things: law, investing, psychology, and communication. That rare combination created a perspective the world didn't know it needed until it saw the results. This approach is available to anyone willing to commit to learning strategically. And finally, the fifth investment, an anti-fragile system, ensured that chaos became a catalyst rather than a catastrophe. This system protected him through crises, gave him the strength to act when others hesitated, and transformed downturns into life-changing opportunities. While others suffered, he grew stronger, not because of luck, but because he had prepared for the unpredictable. Taken together, these 5 investments form a blueprint, a way of thinking about life, money, opportunity, and resilience that most people never encounter. They explain why some individuals thrive regardless of circumstance, while others struggle no matter how hard they work. By choosing to build these investments deliberately, one step at a time, anyone can reshape their future by 2026 and beyond. And if you're ready, we can take one final step, wrapping these 5 investments into a closing reflection that ties everything together with clarity and purpose.